So as I'm recording this, the Los Angeles Lakers are up 2-0 in the series in the NBA Finals against the Miami Heat. And I just wanted to make this video just to let y'all know. First of all, I told you, motherfuckers, don't doubt LeBron. Never doubt LeBron. You can doubt AD because AD hasn't really proven himself yet, but he's been in the West and a hard conference and everything. But don't fucking doubt LeBron ever. And what y'all do? Y'all doubted LeBron. Oh, Kawhi's the reigning Finals MVP. Oh, he's got Paul George. Playoff P's gonna come in. You know what I'm saying? And then we're looking at the East. Giannis is MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? We're all thinking they're gonna get to doing something, and well, y'all see what happens. We're here now. The Clippers blow a 3-1 lead versus the Nuggets, who are the third seed, I believe. And then, it ends up being a Heat-Lakers final. The Lakers, host to the finals, have only lost 3 games. They've won every series in 5 games. You know what I'm saying? And so now we're here. LeBron's on his path, on his way to his fourth ring. And I just can't help but look at all of the NBA media, all of the sports analysts, all of the fake ass fans who went and they pointed and they looked at the Clippers and said that the Clippers were that team, that they were going to do it this year. And I can't blame them, because on paper the Clippers do look like a very solid team. They have a very solid on paper roster, but when it comes to actually getting the job done, they clearly weren't those guys. And I think you have to look no further than the one glaring issue with that team, besides obviously Doc Rivers, being a bad coach. You know what I'm saying? Aside from him being a mediocre coach that's been overblown and hyped up by all of the media, there are a couple of other problems with the team. First of all, the mental toughness isn't really there. They weren't all really checked in for the bubble. Obviously, we know that Lou Will went and he's lemon pepper Lou now because he went out, he got some chicken wings in Orlando and all that shit. And then Paul George really hasn't been himself the entire bubble, the entire playoffs, and Kawhi's also looked kind of unmotivated and everything. And that team did vote out of continuing the season after Jacob Blake was shot by the police. So I mean, maybe this entire team was just not checked in at that point. Maybe they were just all looking to get out of the bubble and go back home. But it clearly wasn't the same case for the Lakers. And so the main problem with that Clippers team would be, if you told me to look at the team and tell you what is wrong with the team, they don't have a playmaker. They don't have a playmaker, a good point guard who can run the offense. And with this league being dominated so heavily by LeBron and all these other small forwards, it's easy to think that you don't really need one, or that it's not that important to have a very good playmaker who's going to run the offense and just take the ball up and just stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Facilitate and create shots for other people. Not just getting assists, but everything when it comes down to having gravity and drawing players to them and making shots open for other players, running plays, things like that. And every successful team has at least one of those. And you can be successful without having a good playmaking guy, but I don't think you're ever going to be a championship team without having that guy. And so that's just the big problem with the Clippers. If you look at their team, okay, who's their point guard? Fucking Patrick Beverley, a dude who has no offensive game at all. His only anything is his ability to play annoying ass pesky defense. It's not good defense, it's just annoying, it's pesky. He draws fouls and he just barks a lot. That's Patrick Beverley for you. And that's the dude who's going to be running the offense. Patrick Beverley. Think about that. That's a little bit nuts. I mean, you might look to Kawhi to do that, because you might think that Kawhi is this amazing LeBron-esque player who can run the offense and facilitate for other players, run plays, all the stuff that I previously mentioned. You might think that Kawhi Leonard's that guy, but he's not. Kawhi Leonard is not that guy. And I think that's been exposed this entire season, where he's been looked at as the guy who's going to play defense, spot up for three every now and then, play some ISO game, hit a nice, quick little mid-range, post up every now and then, you know what I'm saying, using his Kobe bag that Kobe taught him, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. And so that's what we think of Kawhi Leonard as. We don't really think of him as the get assist guy. Even if you don't want to look at the stat sheet, we don't look at him as the guy who creates for others. He works much better off the ball. And LeBron's an on-ball player. He knows how to. He has the highest basketball IQ in, I guess, the history of the league. I mean, no one really is rivaling LeBron James's basketball IQ. It's really that simple. And so when you take that guy and you're comparing him to Kawhi Leonard, just because they're both small forwards and they both have led their teams to championships and finals MVPs and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? When you're comparing LeBron James, who can do all of the stuff that I mentioned, to Kawhi Leonard, you're just bound to be set up for disappointment, because Kawhi Leonard's never had to be the guy who's gonna lead his team. He's never had to be the guy who's having to, go up and create for others and play make and stuff like that. He's not that dude. He's known for his defense and his ability to spot up and shoot, his post game, all that stuff. If you look at how he played with the Spurs, right? He played with the Spurs for all those years. The Spurs always had Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, who has a very high basketball IQ, and they were coached by Coach Spo, you know what I'm saying, who obviously is probably the GOAT coach, the greatest coach ever, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, when you just have Kawhi on that team, he's not having to do any of those things. When they won the finals in 2014, Kawhi got finals MVP for playing defense. Like, purely that. He didn't average that many points. He didn't really do that much offensively. It was just his defense. Now, if we look at Kawhi's other ring, if we go to the Raptors, you might say, oh, but Kawhi Leonard is the number one scoring option on that team. And he is, but you have Pascal Siakam rebounding, you have Pascal Siakam doing things, and all that. And you also have Kyle Lowry to run the offense. He's the guy who takes the ball up. He's the guy who runs the plays. He's a seasoned playoff veteran. Even though he got swept every year by LeBron, he still got there. He still got there with the third best record in the league just about every single time, and was able to play with a player like Kawhi Leonard and DeMar DeRozan. Obviously, he's nowhere near as good, but still, you know what I'm saying? He was playing with him for all of those years, and obviously, you know what I'm saying, they had a lot of success. You know what I'm saying? Because Kyle Lowry is that good traditional point guard type dude. You know what I'm saying? Here, let's just look at all of the teams this playoffs who had that number one, or not number one option, but that dude who can take the ball up and run the offense, right? The Lakers have three of them. They have LeBron James, they have Rajon Rondo, who's turned into a monster this playoffs, and they also have Caruso, who I think is underrated in his ability to go get you an assist or create for others with a screen or anything, read the defense. He's a really good dude, honestly. And he's a better playmaker than just about everybody on the Clippers, if we're being real. At least all the guards. Maybe not Reggie Jackson. I don't know. It's hard to say. But, yeah. If you look at the Nuggets, who came back from the 3-1 deficit against that Clippers team, obviously you have Nikola Jokic, who's the best player on the team, and he is another great playmaking player. But he's a big, obviously, so he's not the kind of number one option. Jamal Murray's also good at creating his own shot, creating for others, and things like that. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, you got that team, right? If we look at the Mavericks, for example, Seth Curry can create for others. He's like a traditional point guard, can hit an open jump shot. You have Luka, who's able to create for others. He averages damn near a triple-double. He can always get you 10 assists. You got Porzingis, who's not a slouch when it comes to spacing the floor and just having a high basketball IQ. Let's look at Miami, for example. Miami's got Goran Dragic. They have Jimmy Butler, who's got like 12 assists tonight, I think. They've got Tyler Hero, who can create his own shot. He can sometimes create for others too. You know what I'm saying? So they, like, all these teams have good guards. The Clippers do not. The Clippers really ran with the facade that Patrick Beverley is this dude that he isn't, and he's never been that dude. The Houston Rockets have James Harden and Russell Westbrook. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of ranting at this point, but it's just frustrating when you see the media just talking this big game about the Clippers, because they have all these, like, the Clippers have a good 2K team, right? Like, if you put their team in the NBA 2K, they have a good team. You know what I'm saying? You got a bunch of 80 overalls and, like, the Morris brother. I think it's Marcus. Yeah, you got the Morris brother. You got Kawhi, obviously, PG, who, you know, they're both like 90 plus overalls in 2K. You know what I'm saying? You've got you know, Patrick Beverley, who's like an 80 overall, and he's like 78 overall in 2K. You know what I'm saying? You got Montrezl Harrell, who's got like, you know, an 83 overall in 2K. You know what I'm saying? If you look at this team in 2K terms, it's a really good team, but they're not in actuality because they're missing like an essential part of the game, the ability to play make, and that's why the Clippers are a bust. The Lakers, on the other hand, are gonna win the finals. Lakers in 5.